Before I get into the content, and it was very deep and very profound to me, simple yet profound. Your background is amazing, and you talked about it in your speech. Your mom married at 13, one of 24 children. You grew up in poverty, and you had you said you were not a good student. But tell us that story, because I think everybody needs to hear it.
Yeah, well, obviously I had all the strikes against me. Single parent home, dire poverty, poor self-esteem, horrible temper. These things tend to preclude success, and they would have in my case also. But my mother, who had only a third-grade education, refused to be a victim. That was the key. She never felt sorry for herself, and that was a good thing. But the problem was she never felt sorry for us either. So, there was never an excuse that we could give that was good enough. And if we gave an excuse, she would come out with a poem called Yourself to Blame. And after a while, we just stopped looking for excuses. But she worked as a domestic, 2 and 3 jobs at a time, because she didn't want to be on welfare. Even though she only had a third-grade education, she was very observant, and she noticed that no one she ever saw go on welfare came off of it. So she didn't want to be dependent, and she didn't want us to be dependent either. So she would work as long and as hard as was necessary. Wow. And one of the things she observed in the homes where she worked is that people didn't watch a lot of TV. And they spent a lot of time reading and strategizing. So one day she came home and just turned the TV off. Said, you guys watch too much TV. If you improve yourself, if you improve your brain, one day people will be watching you on television. And of course she was right about that. And, I hated reading because that's what she imposed upon us. You've got to read 2 books apiece from the Detroit Public Libraries and submit to me written book reports, which she couldn't read, but we didn't know that. And I hated it because everybody else was outside playing and having a good time. But as I started reading, things began to happen. I was looking at words all the time. Suddenly, I could spell. I wasn't the first one to sit down at the spelling bee. Grammar and syntax. And I learned how to express myself. You learn how to use your imagination rather than just observing somebody else's imagination. All of those make you into a terrific student. Within the space of a year and a half, I went from the bottom of the class to the top of the class and began to have a much different view.
What a great!
Of
you
myself.
Said you had to do those 2 book reports, and then you said your mother didn't know how to read them, but she convinced you she did.
She put little check marks and highlights and things on them, and we would think that she was reading them.
Wow.
She did, I will tell you, to her credit, she did eventually get her GED. She went on to college, and in 1994, she got an honorary doctorate, so she's Dr. Carson now, too.
You talked a lot about political correctness. You said it's dangerous. You said it muzzles people. You said there's a PC police force out there. You said it prevents people from saying what they mean. That we need to get over our sensitivity. Explain.
Yeah. Well, here's a nation, one of the founding pillars was freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And yet, we have imposed upon people restrictions on what they can say, on what they can think. And the media, I think, is the largest proponent of this, crucifying people who say things really quite innocently. I mean, you think back a few weeks ago, the sportscaster who commented on the beauty of the quarterback's female, and people thought, that can't be right. And there was a big brouhaha, and finally they realized, well, I guess there's nothing wrong with it. And the woman even was thankful for the compliment. But this is the level of silliness that we've risen to.
All right, Doctor, stay right there. We're going to come back. Your amazing story, this incredible speech that you gave. We're going to talk about how you're saying the fabric of American society now is being changed. You talk about education, taxes, the healthcare system. We'll have more with Dr. Carson right after the break, and still to come tonight.
Yes, I voted twice.
So were these all legal votes in your mind?
Absolutely legal votes. Absolutely.
An Ohio poll worker is convinced voting twice is just absolutely fine. We have that story on blatant voter fraud out of Ohio still to come on this busy News Friday night.